Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, as Prime Minister Modi gets set to meet President Trump at the White House in a few hours, what can India expect from this most unpredictable US president? Will they be able to strike a personal chord? Will Trump do more than just tough talk on Pakistan, or should we keep our expectations low? Also on the show tonight, on the auspicious day of Eid, people in 16-year-old Junaid's village wear black bands in protest. Junaid was beaten to death by a mob on a train last week, accused of eating beef. From the barbaric murder of a Kashmiri police officer, Ayub Pandit, to Junaid's killing and many more, is India becoming a mobocracy? That's something we'll look at a little later in the program. But first, the big story that we're looking at tonight. In just a few hours from now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be meeting President Donald Trump at the White House. That meeting will begin at 1 o'clock in the morning Indian time, and a joint statement is expected to be issued by the two leaders at about 2:30 in the morning Indian time. We're also told that after initially deciding on not taking any questions from the media at this press interaction, at this press statement, both leaders will now take one question each. So it is expected that there will be one Indian and one American journalist that who will be allowed to ask questions. Well, ahead of his meeting with President Trump, the Prime Minister was, as we've already reported earlier, busy meeting top American CEOs on Saturday, and also then late at night India time, he also addressed the Indian community in Washington DC, where he emphasized once again that the biggest achievement he believed that his government had made till now was that it was corruption free. Listen in.
भारत में सरकारें बदली गई हैं, उसके मूल में एक प्रमुख कारण रहा है भ्रष्टाचार, बेईमानी। देश के सामान्य मानवी को नफरत है। कि क्या मतलब है? मैं आज सर झुका करके बड़ी नम्रता से ये कहना चाहूंगा कि इस सरकार ने 3 साल में जो भी कार्यकाल बिताया है, अब तक इस सरकार पर एक भी दाग नहीं लगा है।
Well, that was just one among many things that the Prime Minister talked about in a speech that went down for nearly an hour in that address to the Indian community. Let's go straight across to my colleague Namrata Brar now, joining us from near the White House, where that meeting is going to take place in a few hours from now. Namrata, quite a long day ahead of you there, and we believe that half an hour has been blocked just for the Modi-Trump meeting, although they will actually be together for about 4 or 5 hours.
Yes, Nidhi, the one-on-one interaction, which will be just the two leaders, that's Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, will be for half an hour, and then followed by 1 hour of bilateral talks between the delegations from both sides, post which we have that it's not really a press conference, but statements coming in from both of the leaders at the Rose Garden, and they will take one question each. This is what we've learned, that they'll take one question from the Indian side, put to both the leaders, and then one question from the American side, put to both the leaders. That's really the gist of the logistics, and we've spoken about the fact that this is going to be the first working dinner that President Trump will be hosting. But I think a lot has changed in this over the last 48 hours on the Indian side. They were playing down the expectations of this visit, were saying don't expect too much, it's just a get to know each other visit. Very subdued is how they would describe it. But now, over the last 48 hours, there's been a marked change. India is getting a little more assertive. We heard Prime Minister Modi talking about the drones, basically what he would do in terms of sort of asserting a might against Pakistan and on terror. And I think that's indicative of the fact that a very strong statement on terror is expected from the Indian side, and they feel that there'll be much more than just mainly naming or designating a terror group. They feel it'll be conclusive. The other big part, which was always an iffy subject, was the H-1B visa issue. And Nidhi, now they've they both are saying that this could come up on the table. The American side has been reluctant to even mention it, but now both sides talking about the fact that it will be part of the discussion. So it just shows a more comfortable India. And as we've been reporting, the big takeaway will come from the defense deal. That's the drone deal of 22 Guardian drones valued at $3 billion, which is going to be supplied by the US to India to navigate the Indo-Pacific waters. A lot of conversation is going to center around those navigational efforts and how both the countries could strategically tie up a joint effort in that region. US is also talking about India's aid in the Afghanistan region and fleshing out a possible strategy there.
All right, Namrata, thanks a lot. We'll be coming back to you, of course, later. As we said, the meeting actually begins at 1 o'clock in the morning Indian time. And let me welcome our guest this evening. Ambassador K.C. Singh joins us on the show tonight. Mr. Sheshadri Chari, Strategic Affairs Analyst and member of the BJP. Manish Tiwari, spokesperson of the Congress and member of the Atlantic Council. We have Bharat Gopalaswamy, Director of the South Asia Atlantic Council, who's based out of Washington, who's here in Delhi today. Alyssa Iris, Senior Fellow for India, Pakistan and South Asia at the Council for Foreign Relations, is with us from DC. And we have Kiran Majumdar-Shaw also joining us tonight. Alyssa Iris, let me ask you first. Namrata there, my colleague, saying that the mood in the Indian camp is a little more upbeat since yesterday. Earlier, everyone was saying, play down the expectations. This is just a getting to know him visit. And now they seem a little more confident that there could be more tangible outcomes. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think we saw the indication, the announcement of the drone procurement. That's terrific. I think the real question on this issue of announcements or deliverables, every time there's a sort of leader-level summit meeting between the U.S. President and the Indian Prime Minister, there's some kind of expectation there's going to be a path-breaking, the next nuclear deal or something. And I don't think we're going to have that. We haven't had that since 2008. But what has happened is the ties between both countries have expanded along a whole range of different areas. And I think that what you see, that kind of normalizing a deeper and broader relationship, is really what's at stake here. So I think that what we'll see coming out of this will be some kind of joint statement acknowledging the great progress on both sides, probably the announcement of the drones. If there's anything else new to announce, we'll hear about that, but it probably won't be a big departure that hasn't already been previewed in some of what we've heard already.
Well, Bharat Gopalaswamy, you wrote a piece the other day where you actually seemed to caution against any high expectations, and you talked about the fact that there is a backdrop of the unpredictability that's been unleashed by this president's policy and the turbulence that has come with it. So clearly, when you look at this meeting today, are you first going to be looking at what kind of a personal rapport, if any, the two leaders are able to strike?
I just want to take off from where Alyssa Ayres left out. I think at some levels, the India-US relationship is like a boring marriage. In the sense, what I mean is things are going well, without, we always have an expectation for some fireworks to happen, and that's not going to happen. And with the this coupled with the unpredictability you're going to have with what we're seeing today in the US political situation is things might go wrong. So we're starting from a defensive position saying, oh, hope nothing goes so bad. But
isn't everybody when they meet Donald Trump for the first time? That
is correct. It's been a very hostile campaign. It's been a very difficult campaign. The U.S. and the rhetoric that has come out has not been very favorable to the world writ large. So when you have that as an assumption, you're nervous and anxious and apprehensive about what's going to come out. And to be fair enough, the United States today, there are a lot of jobs that have been left unfulfilled, The U.S., particularly per se when it comes to India, the South and Central Asia Bureau is not fully staffed. We do not have an assistant secretary. There is just one, and we heard the news about this special representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan office being dissolved by the end of the month. So when you have this kind of a situation, you're nervous.
Chaos.
You're nervous about what's going to come out when you meet the big boss. So I think with all these things put together, you just don't want anything to go bad, where there's a lot of chances for everything to go bad.
Well, that's interesting. Ambassador Singh, let me ask you if you agree with what Bharat Gopalaswamy is saying, that in a sense, what he's saying is that the expectations are actually quite low, because you are so nervous going into this meeting, not knowing what to expect from someone like Donald Trump, that, you know, if it actually goes pretty smoothly, you know, without any controversy, then we can all, you know, maybe breathe a sigh of relief. Is that how you see it as well?
Nidhi, I think what made India anxious was that the strategic assumptions behind Indo-US relations for the last 15 years, since definitely 2001, were based on both President Bush and President Obama accepting that a powerful India, a rising India, was necessary for stability in India and to balance a rising China, which has of late become very assertive. And the second thing was that if a rising India has to be there, then at a strategic level, US president had to push the stakeholders in America, it was intellectual property rights, H-1B visas and so on and so forth, to cut out India a special deal. Now, with Trump withdrawing from the TPP, Trump cutting out a special deal with President Xi, President's son-in-law, Kissinger, working out special arrangements with them, family getting interposed there. We don't know. There's a question mark on how far Trump is willing to go on China, because he is in a withdrawal, he is America first, isolationist approach. He's doing the same thing to NATO, it's not just to India. That would be something that Prime Minister would need to determine in his 30 minutes with Trump. All else flows from that. Now, to second problem that Trump has created is, with the Riyadh summit, he has caused very serious divisions in the Islamic world. He has overturned Obama's outreach to Iran. And a consequence of that is that today the Supreme Leader of Iran, in his Eid address, has said that they need to support the people of Yemen, Bahrain and Kashmir. So he's brought in the K word. I think the Iranians are also nervous. They feel that for India wanting to extract concessions on Pakistan and Afghanistan, Trump is going to want India to join him in condemning Iran, because that pressure which had stopped on Iran is going to restart. So the strategic precedes the details, not the details to figure out the strategic.
Well, let me then ask you though, Ambassador Singh, what for you would be a good outcome then in this first meeting? I mean, you flagged the areas of concern. So in this joint statement, what would you say would mark a positive achievement?
I think there should be some clarity on Afghanistan. We should keep away from condemning Iran. We should try extracting US condemnation of Chinese, don't name China, of interference with global commons, of oceans and so on and so forth. Maybe the drone deal is in that direction. The only bait we have is to be buying arms, which is what Trump did in Saudi Arabia. And then after condemning Qatar, did it the following day with Qatar. So he is really transactional. He is looking for deals. But the crucial thing will be, how do we marry America first with Make in India? Which means you have to really tweak your visa policy. You don't make a big issue out of it. I don't think India is going to do it, though for PR they will say we raised it. It may be given to a committee or a group to look at how to marry the two interests and see that really we are not taking away American jobs. In the long run, we are helping them. But essentially it is a new kind of commercial economic engagement which will have to be very practical,
as you said, he's very transactional.
You will not be cut.
Yeah, as you said, he's very transactional. Mr. Chari, let me ask you though, and Ambassador Singh raised the issue of Iran, he raised the issue of Afghanistan, and then there is also Pakistan. And I think a great expectation in India, certainly, that there is something that will be different in the way that the Trump administration deals with Pakistan and how it approaches the terror issue. And certainly there are indications that the Indian contingent in Washington is looking at something perhaps quite strong in the joint statement. What could that be? Mr. Chari?
No, I think the US administration has already sounded out on this particular issue. The US administration has already sounded out on this issue. They have come down very heavily on as far as the Pakistan-based terror activities are concerned. But I don't think we should look at Indo-US relationship only from the prism of Pakistan, or what US is going to think about Pakistan, or what US is going to think about China. I think we have come to a stage where India and US will have to engage with each other as two very large democracies of the world. And then there are issues that concern not just India and US, but there are other issues which concerns the whole of the world. I think these are some of the issues that we should flag. Of course, terrorism is an important issue, but economic development of India is also another important issue. And there are a number of pressure groups within the US which will prevail upon the Trump administration to suggest that they should be engaging more with India. And if US wants to engage more with India, they cannot look the other way as far as Pakistan is concerned. They cannot look the other way as what China is doing in this region is concerned. So they will have to come to terms with what China is doing, what Pakistan is doing. So instead of we pressurizing USA or we telling the Trump administration what they should be doing in China or what they should be doing vis-a-vis Pakistan, I think Pakistan is something where we have to take an action. We have to set things right. So it's a bilateral issue. We cannot expect US to come and do something for us as far as Pakistan is concerned.
Yeah.
Even as far as terrorism is concerned, we will have to improve our own internal mechanism as far as tackling terrorism is concerned.
Absolutely.
So I am not expecting the US administration, the Trump administration, to speak something exceptionally different from what the earlier dispensations have done.
I think what you said is absolutely right, and probably true. Even what you said at the end, that the approach to Pakistan may not be radically different from what previous administrations have done. Manish Tiwari, I'm just going to come to you in a second. I want to ask Kiran Majumdar-Shaw though on what India Inc. is expecting from these talks and from this visit. I mean, when CEOs meet prime ministers and presidents, they're all very gung-ho, and at least publicly, they say everything is terrific and wonderful. But there was a report just yesterday of US lawmakers pressing Donald Trump to do more, saying that the ease of doing businesses in India is just not easy enough even now. There are still too many bottlenecks for them, and they feel that India needs to do much more. Do you agree with that? And what are your expectations?
So, Nidhi, I personally believe that Prime Minister Modi is going to position India as of strategic importance in many ways. I think we are a key strategic partner to the US, both in terms of bilateral trade and in terms of geopolitical aspects. So I for one believe that in terms of trade and business, I think India is a very, very strong partner, both in terms of offering huge market opportunities for US businesses, but equally I think there are very symbiotic opportunities for India and US to cooperate. I think the US also expects India to be an important partner or bilateral partner from the defense business point of view. You heard some of this earlier panelists speak about the drone deal. He is going to look for deals, but equally I think India is also very strongly placed in terms of being a balancing economic center to China. And I think President Trump also realizes this extremely well. So positioning India as a very, very key strategic partner of the democratic world is also very important. As a business partner is very important. I'm sure he will basically project India in a very different way when it comes to IT, technology, and of course in the whole pharma sector as well. Where we have a very important role to play in bringing down healthcare costs in the US, for instance. And I think these are the kind of aspects that need to be projected when we are talking about how important it is for the two countries to work together.
Well, Manish Tiwari, it's interesting today that Randeep Surjewala of the Congress actually strongly criticized the Prime Minister for a couple of things. One, for once again, criticizing the UPA government's record on foreign soil, but also saying that the Congress really wanted to see the PM speak up more strongly in this meeting on H-1B visas, on the climate change snub, as well as, the hate crimes that we saw against Indians that took place in the initial days of Mr. Trump's presidency. Do you believe that this has to be a priority, or that they're going to skirt around some of the more difficult issues in a first meeting?
Well, Nidhi, let's get something very clear. Prime Minister Modi is the 40th head of state or government who would be meeting President Trump. Even little Montenegro and Egypt have actually beaten Mr. Modi to the gates of the White House. And if somebody has been monitoring Mr. Trump's tweets since morning, those tweets are all about crooked Hillary, about Obama not taking action against Russia, etc., etc., which shows that Mr. Modi is in the midst of a very dysfunctional Washington administration. You know, the focus of the president is definitely somewhere else. Number three, coincidentally, the day the Prime Minister landed in the United States, the US government decided to wind up the special representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan, the SPAR, and essentially putting Pakistan back into the South and Central Asia Bureau in the Department of State. And as we speak, you have a review of the South Asia policy which is taking place in the Trump administration as opposed to an AFPAC policy earlier. Coupled with that, you have a situation whereby the president is personally invested in the relationship with China. It has nothing to do with India. It has something to do with a headache called the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, because the US has been the largest outside hegemon in North Asia and in East and Southeast Asia. And of course, then there is the problem of the US wanting an out from Afghanistan, where they feel that by raising the ISIS bogey, you know, they will be able to have a modus vivendi with Taliban, where obviously they required Pakistan in the ISI. So therefore, there may be some atmospherics in the visit, Nidhi. There is nothing substantive, unfortunately, which is going to come out of this visit.